All right. All right, I think we can get started. I'm not seeing any messages in the chat. So, hi, I am Carol Gordon, Interim Director of Product Development here at BookNet Canada. And I'm joined today by our Associate Product Manager for CataList, Vivian Liu. So thank you for coming to our webinar today. So before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that BookNet Canada's operations are remote, and we are broadcasting to you today from the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee First Nation peoples. We encourage you to visit the nativeland.ca website. We'll drop the link in the chat to learn more about the peoples whose land you are joining from today. Moreover, BookNet endorses the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada and supports an ongoing shift from gatekeeping to space-making in the book industry. In today's webinar, we're going to be sharing some tips that we hope will help you in your daily work. So Vivian's going to do some live demonstration of several areas and functions of the site. From finding samples and excerpts and other bonus content like reading group guides and teachers guides, to requesting advanced reading copies, using the search features to explore titles in a variety of ways. In particular, we want to show you some of the search tools that are available on the site that support kind of specific Canadian needs, and some that are built on newer data points that are being adopted across the industry. So some of those include the ability to identify and limit your results to Canadian authored books, to filter results by more granular geographical locations, including for both book subject and for author locations. So while those are new data points that are still very much in the adoption stage, libraries and retailers both have indicated a clear need for this kind of information. And we're seeing publishers starting to answer that call by providing this information in their book metadata. We're also going to introduce our latest search feature, which allows search and refine actions on accessibility features for digital products. So again, this is building on some fairly new metadata that publishers are providing, but we are seeing Canadian publishers making it a priority to create accessible ebooks and to produce the supporting metadata that makes it possible to find them. And then beyond sort of just titles and data, we also want to demonstrate some of the list-making features in the system that can allow you to create and maintain your own title list, as well as collaborate on those lists with your colleagues, and then show you how to get those lists and other data out of the CataList system using the export options. We brought with us some frequently asked questions that we often hear, and we will leave time at the end to take questions from anyone who's joining us from today. So if you have questions during the presentation, please do go ahead and drop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can drop those in at any time. We'll gather them up and we'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of our session today. And again, if you have technical issues during the webinar, you can use the chat feature in Zoom to connect with the support team that's helping us out today. I think most of our attendees today have already set up their CataList accounts. But for anyone who hasn't, you can simply go to the BNC catalist.ca address, use the link on the homepage to request a free account. So you can see there, when you go there, CataList does have some publicly available catalog and title data that's just generally available. But most of the features that Vivian's going to demonstrate today will require you to log into your account to access them. So again, libraries get free access to the system. You can have multiple people in the same account for these collaboration tools we're going to show. And with that, I'm just going to hand the presentation over to Vivian to start showing you through the features.
Thanks, Carol. Hello, everyone. I'm Vivian, and let's get started by going to CataList. So as Carol mentioned, a lot of the catalogs and titles are available to you without you having to log in, as you can see here. However, if you want to use the features to save your lists of books, if you want to view the additional resources that publishers have provided, then you would have to log in to your CataList account. Once you have logged in, you will also have access to more data and more titles, especially those that are forthcoming. So let's log in to take a look at these features. Okay, so on the home page, you can see the recently added drop-ins that publishers have added to the site. And you can also see below here the titles that will be releasing this week, and also the catalogs that publishers have recently added to the site. If you are interested in a specific publisher's catalogs, then you could look for the publisher's name in the list on the left-hand side here. And you could scroll through this publisher list, find the publisher's name, and view their catalogs on their landing page. If instead you wanted to search more broadly for titles on the site, you can use our search features, which are located in the top right corner here. The first level of search that you have access to here is the quick search. And the quick search will let you search for, for example, a book's title, the author, the publisher, any keywords that might be associated with the book, and also you can search for BISAC or thema subjects. At this point, you can also limit your search to return only print products or digital products or all products. You can also use the quick search to search for catalogs by its name. So this could be useful if you are looking for themed catalogs, such as if you are looking for a Halloween themed catalog, you might be able to enter Halloween into the search box and see what catalogs publishers and sales reps have made available that surround the theme of Halloween. If instead you'd like to run your own advanced search, then you could do so by clicking the advanced search link just below the box. So if we click that, it will take us to the advanced search form. And we can use any of these parameters to construct our own search. We have here a few parameters, and these are all the parameters that you could also use in the quick search. But with the advanced search form, you could combine them with a few other filters. For example, if I wanted to search for graphic novels, then I can enter graphic novels into the box here to look for any subject headings that have the words graphic novel, whether it's a BISAC subject or a thema subject. If you know the exact subject that you're looking for, you could also look for it using the subject tree that we have in the lower left corner here. Once you have selected the type of subject standard that you'd like to look for, you can click the Add Subjects button and look through the subject tree to find the exact subject that you would like to search for. You can also use the search box in the screen here to look for the subject so that you could select it. For example, if I were still looking for graphic novels, then I could type in graphic novels, and then any matching subject will appear in red. So if I were looking for juvenile fiction graphic novels, I could scroll down and find that subject here and select it for my search. Towards the right-hand side of the form, we have a few filters that you could use with your advanced search. For example, you could limit your results to show only titles that are forthcoming. You can also choose to return only titles that have Canadian contributors by selecting the Canadian authors checkbox. You can also limit your results to return only titles that include accessibility details in the record. And this is a rather new parameter that we've added to the site just late last year, so it's still quite new to the site. You can use it to help enhance your advanced search as well. We also have publication date range and price range that you can use for your search. For example, if we are looking for titles that are publishing later this year, we could, for example, search for, let's say we want to look for any titles that have a publication date that is somewhere between June and December. So you could use the calendar that appears when you click on the text box to choose the specific publication dates for your search. You can also choose the specific formats that would return in your search or the specific audience, or also books in specific languages. And once you have constructed your advanced search, you are ready to run it by clicking the Run Search button here. So let's run a simple example of an advanced search. And I'm going to first clear the form. So for this example, let's search for titles that have Canadian authors and also titles that have accessibility features. And let's also limit the advanced search to titles that are available or forthcoming. Okay, so now we can start our search. And then we can take a look at the results to see what books return. Once the results return, you can view them in a scrolling view, which shows you the cover image here as well. Or you could view your results in a grid so that you could also sort them if you'd like. You can also review the parameters that you've selected for your advanced search by opening up the advanced search form at the top of the search results. And if you'd like, you can also make any adjustments and then rerun your search. But for now, let's minimize this and work with the results that we do have. So let's say you want to narrow down your results a little more. You can use the filters that we have on the left-hand side here to filter your results. For example, you can filter your results by BIZAC or thema subjects. If you're not familiar with thema subjects, thema is a new subject scheme that is being used more widely in the book industry. And we, in fact, see year over year many more publishers are including thema subjects in their data. And in fact, thema is where we source the information for the geographical region data. And geographical region is another filter that we are able to use for our search. And the geographical region will help you narrow down books to a specific area. So it would narrow down your results to books that are set in specific areas. For example, if you wanted to find books that have a setting that is near your local area, then you can use the geographical region to narrow down to the specific city or a country where the book takes place. If you have any questions about thema, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the webinar. Another useful filter that we have here is contributor location. Now, we already limited our advanced search to return only titles that have Canadian authors. However, you could also use the contributor location to go even deeper into the location of the author. For example, if we have the data available, you could narrow down your results to show only any books that have contributors located in a specific province, such as British Columbia or Nova Scotia. We also have accessibility as a filter here, and this is also a new filter that we added recently. You can use this filter to find books that include specific accessibility features. For example, if we were interested only in titles that included print equivalent page numbering, then we could filter our results that way. We can also use the filters on the search results page to find any titles that include this bonus content that publishers sometimes provide. For example, we could see any titles that have teacher's guides, or if we were only interested in books that have interior images, then we can select that instead. Now, you may have noticed that a lot of these filters available on the search results page some of them are also available in the advanced search form, such as the availability. And You can use a combination of the advanced search parameters and also the filters that are available once your search has returned to find the exact titles that you are interested in browsing for. So let's say that we have found the titles that we'd like to see, and now we can click on any of these titles to learn more about it on the titles detailed page. And here we have a lot of bibliographic data about the title. This data is updated regularly so that we display the latest information that the publisher has made available. We can see here, for example, the title's format, the language, the audience, and we can see information about any illustrations that might be included in this title. Towards the left-hand side here, beneath the cover image, we have the supplemental information that we had filtered our results by just earlier. And you can click on any of these interior images to view it more thoroughly directly on CataList. And you can page through them as well. You can also click on any buttons here for the teacher's guides or reading group guides to view that information in the PDF viewer. And so you can scroll through it directly on CataList, or you could download this PDF so that you could view it offline or to share with others. Below the additional resources, we have other formats of this book. If the other format is also on CataList, you can click on the ISBN to learn more about that specific format. We also have here a box for accessibility. And here it will list out all of the different accessibility features that are available for this title. Below the description section for the book, we have the comparable titles that sales reps and publishers have added to this book. And this could be useful when you are looking for titles that are similar to the one that you're looking at. Maybe if you are looking for recommendations for a reader, for example. If your library submits circulation data, then when you are logged in, you will also have access to see each of these comparable titles. You'll be able to see the sales history for each of these comparable titles. And that can help you see how well these titles are performing in the market. Now, if you're not familiar with library data, it's another BookNet project, and it collects library circulation data and makes it available in an aggregated format so that you can use it for reporting. And libraries that submit circulation data also get access to sales data, which is the platform used for reporting retailer sales for books. And that sales history is what displays in the comparable titles table if you have access to it. I'd also like to add that CataList uses sales data and library data in a few different ways to provide more contextual information for titles that are in the system. And I will point out an example of how we use this data later on in this webinar. Okay, so we've gone over how to find books on the site. So let's now talk about how you can find advanced reading copies. So the easiest way for you to find an advanced reading copy is to return to the home page. And then when you are logged in, you will see the NetGalley box in the top right corner here. And you can click on the link here to start a search to find any CataList titles that are also available on NetGalley. NetGalley is a site where professional readers or reviewers can request access to digital galleys. And we have set up an integration with NetGalley so that when a title on CataList is also available on NetGalley, you could click on the Request at NetGalley button, which is, now that the results have returned, let me show you here. The Request at NetGalley button, it's right here. You can click on this button to find that advanced reading copy on the NetGalley site. And on CataList, publishers can also enable a reading copy feature so that librarians can request ARCs directly through CataList. So let's continue with the example we were using earlier and filter our results for Canadian authors. And then we can take a look at any of these titles to see if the publisher has also enabled the request an ARC tool that is available on CataList. So we can see for this title that we have the button to request an ARC from NetGalley. And we also have here next to it, the button to request an ARC directly from the publisher on CataList. And to do that, you would simply have to click on the button, and then you would fill in the information required for the request. You can choose the format that you would prefer for the reading copy. So let's say we want a digital copy, and then you can enter the other required information to submit this reading copy request. And once you have submitted your first request and you have filled in the information, most of the information is saved so that the next time you request a reading copy for another book, it automatically populates this form. And so once you have filled in the form and you've sent it to the publisher receives an email of it and they can review your request for an ARC. All right, so we have found titles using search, and we have found titles that have advanced reading copies, and we may have at this point found a collection of different titles that we would like to save to our CataList account so that we can refer back to them. And maybe we would want to organize them into different lists so that they are easier to find in the future. And on CataList, you can create these private lists. And on CataList, we call these custom catalogs. Custom catalogs are also usually created by sales reps and shared with librarians and other book buyers. However, you could also create your own lists when you are logged into your account. And so you can create a list from really anywhere on the site where you see the Add to Catalog button, which is the icon with the red plus sign. For example, on this page, I can click on the Add to Catalog button, and I could add this title to either an existing catalog that I've created, or I could create a new one. Now, this account doesn't have any existing custom catalogs yet, so let's create a new one here. And we could give it a unique name that we can easily identify the titles that are in it later. So for example, I could call this Juvenile Graphic Novels, Juvenile. And then I would choose whether this catalog is a private or collaborative catalog. A private catalog would mean that only you and any other account managers in your CataList account will be able to see this list and add or remove titles from it. If you make this a collaborative list instead, then that means anyone in your account can add or remove titles. And this could be useful if you are, for example, building a list for a new display at your library. And so you can make it collaborative so that your other staff members who may have a CataList account, they could also see the list of titles and they could also add their own suggestions to the list. So it's a way for you to work collaboratively with your colleagues. So let's create this catalog as a collaborative one. And once it has been created, you can continue to add as many other titles to it as you want. For example, from this detailed page here, I can see which other catalogs this title is included in. So I could do that by going down here to the catalogs box, and I could see the list of seasonal and custom catalogs that this title is in as well. For the seasonal catalogs, we can see that there are two different seasonal catalogs that it's in. One of them is called Most Circulated Titles in Canada in 2023 for Canadian juvenile and young adult. Now, a little background for any catalogs that you might find that have this kind of name on the site. These are catalogs that we've created here at BookNet, and they are built using library data. And as I mentioned before, just a little earlier, library data is where we collect library circulation data. And we use this data to share a little more widely some of the information that we have on titles in libraries. If you're interested in seeing which other titles circulated the most, then you can click on this catalog to take a look. If you have access to library data, you can also log into your account and run your own reports on the library data website to learn more about the circulation of your own library. Now, back to catalogs. The second seasonal catalog that we have here is the Tundra Book Group catalog that they've created for their summer 2024 season. And so if we want to instead see which other titles Tundra Book Group is promoting for their upcoming season, then we can take a look at that catalog instead. So let's take a look at that catalog. And once you've clicked on the link, you are directed to the custom catalog. And by default, you are shown the thumbnail view. However, you could also view the catalog in a few different views. For example, you can see the titles in the scrolling view, which shows more titles per page. And you can also expand any of these blue sections to learn more about the title. So if I want to see the marketing copy, so if I want to see the description, for example, I can take a look at the description right from this page. And if I want, I can also click the Add to Catalog button here, the little icon with the plus icon. I can click it and then I can add it to the list that we had created earlier. If I want to add multiple titles to a list that I've created, I can do that by clicking on the checkbox that is next to the title. And once you do, you will see a action box that appears here, and that helps you keep track of the titles that you have selected. So you can see how many titles you've selected. And I can continue to select as many titles as I want. I can take a look at the comparable titles available for a certain book, and I can see what awards or reviews may have been added for this title. And I can select it if I want, and I can continue selecting as many titles from this catalog as I would like to add to my list. Once you have selected all of the ones that you'd like to add, you can click the plus icon from here, and you can add all of these titles to your list with just a single click. So once you click copy, all of those titles that you've added will be added to your list. Now, you can also in your account view all of the custom catalogs that you've created, and you can do that by going to the My Page section of your account. So let's click on the My Page link from the top of the site. And that will take you to your custom catalogs tab. And you can see here the catalog that we had just created, and it is a collaborative catalog. You can also over here you can filter your table so that you see only private catalogs or the collaborative catalogs. If you received any catalogs from sales reps, so if a sales rep has shared a catalog with your account specifically, then you can find a list of those catalogs as well in the Received Catalogs tab here. So let's take a look at the catalog that we just created. So since this is a list that we created and we have access to edit, we can also remove titles from the list by clicking on the red X. We can instead also move a title to another catalog that we have created, that we have access to edit. Since I don't have any other catalogs. Of course, this list over here is blank at the moment. You can also, if you'd like, create a completely new copy of your catalog if you have the need to do that. And you could do that by using the copy catalog icon in the toolbar here. I also just wanted to point out another feature that we have on CataList, which is the Order Products feature. And so this Order Products button is for the order management tools that we have available for librarians, for library accounts. Some libraries create orders on CataList, and then you can export those orders as a spreadsheet to send to your suppliers. We unfortunately do not have time in this webinar to cover the ordering tools in its entirety. However, if you have questions about it, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and we can also share a link to our help articles that include information about ordering titles on CataList. Okay, so while I have us here in a catalog, I'd like to also go over the different areas, the different type of exports that you can use when you're logged in. So you have a few different ways of exporting information from CataList. And the first export option that I'd like to talk about is the PDF export. So from any title on CataList or any catalog on CataList, you can see the PDF icon that is in the toolbar. And once you click on it, you have a few default PDF templates that you can use to export your information. You have the single, you have the list, and you have the tile templates. The single PDF template would let you export your catalog so that each title's data takes up a single page in the catalog. So you can fit a lot of data in a single template. For the list template, you would be exporting your catalog and the titles would be listed out. For the tile template, as the name and the image suggest, your PDF will show the information in a thumbnail view. So you would see mostly the cover image, for example. Now, for each of these different PDF templates, you can edit the data that appears in the PDF. For example, if you are most interested in the audience and BISAC and the other subject information, then you can make sure that that information is included in your PDF. And if you are not interested in seeing other data in the PDF, then you could clear out those selections as well. For the list and tile templates, you have a few more options when it comes to the layout. And so you can make some minor adjustments to how many titles appear per page. For the list template, for example, you can change the number of titles that appear on a page to, for example, 2 titles per page or 4 titles per page. And for the tile, you can change the size of the grid. For example, you can set up your tile template so that it shows a 2x5 grid or a 5x6 grid or any combination in between. And once you have customized your templates, you can save them so that you can use them again later. Or you can also share your PDF templates with other users in your account so that they also have access to them when they are exporting their catalog as a PDF. Now, the second way of exporting information from CataList is to export it as an Excel or CSV file. And you can access these options in the export icon from the toolbar. I'm going to hop over to the grid view so that I can explain the Excel export a little more. So the columns that display in the Excel or CSV spreadsheet depends on the columns that you have displayed in the grid view. And each of these columns, you can choose which columns appear in your grid view by going to the Customize Columns settings here. And by default, your account may be set up to view the account columns. And the account columns are the default columns that are available for every person in your CataList account. And they are always available in case you ever need to create any standardized exports. If you want to change the type of columns that are in your export, however, you would switch over to your My Custom Columns options here. And you can select the type of column that you'd like to see. For example, if you want to see series information, then you can make sure that the series and series number columns are selected. You could also make sure that the age range is selected. If you are not interested in any of the other columns, then you can also remove them from the list like so. You can scroll down to see what other information you might be interested in including in your export. And once you have decided on what information you'd like to include, you can click Save to save your settings. And then as you can see, the grid has updated to show just the columns that I want to see. And you can drag these columns into a specific order so that it is exactly to your preferences, like so. And now when you export your catalog to an Excel or CSV file, it will include just the information that you've selected to display here in your grid view. There is one more type of export that is available in your catalogs when you are logged in, specifically in a library account, and that is the MARC export. So when you click on the export icon here, you have another option to export your catalog information as a simple MARC record, and it will download the file as a .mrc file, and you can open that on your computer using a program that can read that file type, and you can use it in whatever way you would like. I have downloaded a MARC file earlier as an example, and I will return to the presentation slide so that I can show it to you. So we're here and then advance to the next slide. And so here is the example of a MARC record that I had downloaded a little earlier and opened on my computer. So on the left-hand side, you can see how the file looks when I have it opened in MARC Editor. And on the right-hand side here, this is the information that we provide for a single title that is in the catalog. And this concludes the live demonstration portion of this webinar, and I will pass it back to Carol for the Q&A session.
Thanks, Vivian. Not much to see on the slides, so I'll talk to you live. We did get a couple of questions that came in. Thank you for sending your questions. So I'll address the questions from the group first, and then if we have time, I'll go through some of the frequently asked questions as well. The first question was about how do we see library data? So I'm not sure whether the question is how do we see it in CataList or how do we get access to it generally? So I'll kind of answer both. The first portion of how do you see library data, if you are looking at, if you're interested in that, libraries that supply circulation data into the system have access to see the aggregated data from all the systems that participate. So you can see what's happening trending kind of countrywide or regionally, whatever, using the tools on the library data site. So library data maintains its own site where you can run those reports, set up your queries, save reports, set up emails, emailed reports on that data. More information about that, I think you can look that up using the link that's in the chat. In terms of seeing library data in CataList, I am really excited to see that question. So right now in the system, library data, sales data, you get access to both when your library submits circulation data. And it is sales data only that we are showing currently in CataList. However, we're very interested in knowing more about what you guys want to see. If you guys want to see data that you can get out of the library data platform and you'd like to see that reflected in some way in CataList, we would love, love, love to know how you'd want to see that. Library data does have some challenges when we're working with ISBN level data in CataList because there are clusters of ISBNs and some challenges there. So we'd love to get some feedback kind of on the expectations of what librarians would like to see. I'm hoping that answers the question. Please do get in touch with us. We'd love to have some conversations about what you'd like to see to kind of make that happen. And also just in general, whether the sales information is also of interest if library data is like an extra level, or if you'd rather see something like library data prioritized over the sales data. So that was a great question. Thank you. Are there any tips for the ARC requests to ensure that we have a higher chance of receiving them? This is a tough question for us to answer on the CataList team because we're really not in charge of we just enable the request to the publishers. And I think it's a publisher by publisher answer as far as whether it's going to NetGalley or going direct. It is something we're kind of trying to monitor as well. And we're looking at different ways of making advanced reading copies available. We have in progress right now, we're speccing out a method of getting at least the kids, PDF, full book, F&Gs available into CataList so that publishers can manage that on a whitelist basis. So you don't have to request and they don't have to approve. You just get on their whitelist and you'll have access to any of the F&Gs for kids books that they have added. And then beyond that, we can look at how that works and then, whether there's an opportunity to expand that in some way. In the meantime, I know that many publishers, if you prefer print ones, a lot of them are ramping down those print ARC programs. So if you're looking for print, it may be more challenging to get those. Hope that kind of answers the question. I know it's not really a full answer, but it's hard for me to answer on behalf of other publishers. How often are catalog lists created, and are there options for being notified when a new catalog is created? So depending on the lists, there are so many catalogs going up in the system every day. In terms of the ones that we usually put together around circulation data, top circulated in the year, some of those are annual lists. Again, here's something where we'd love to have some feedback if there's, lists on a kind of, monthly basis or something like that you'd be interested in seeing. And kind of, based on what data, there's some things that we can do on the CataList side, or the BookNet marketing team can consider. But publishers are putting together stuff all the time. In terms of notifications, we have not set up a notification system yet. I'd be interested to know if that's something you would kind of, you probably don't want to know every time a catalog goes up on the system. We get those notifications, there's a lot. So, is it certain publishers that you'd be interested in following or that kind of thing? Maybe we can consider some kind of a notification system that won't break your email box or that kind of thing. So yeah, let us know what you'd like to see there. And thank you. Yes, we'd love to see library data and CataList. Great, let's talk. I think that covers the questions that we've got in the Q&A box right now. We do have a couple minutes left. If you have more questions, you can add them, but I just have just maybe 3 things to just cover that are kind of common questions. How many books, like is every book in Canada listed on CataList? I wish this was the case, but it is a publisher subscription service. So there's a cost to publishers to be on the system. So we do not have everyone, and some publishers are not posting their full backlist. But we do have, it's 750,000 titles in the system now. So it's not nothing. It's a pretty extensive list nonetheless. If you're looking for specific publishers that are not there, let us know who you're looking for. We can reach out to them to try and recruit them onto the site. The most useful thing is when publishers know that you guys are looking, libraries are looking, retailers are looking for their data on the site, kind of adds to the value, helps them to understand the value of subscribing when they know that buyers are looking for their titles here. Can I export all of a book's bibliographic data out of CataList? So we did show the kind of extent of the export options, and you probably didn't get a chance to look at all the options that are available in the customized columns, but it's not everything. There's definitely more data related to titles that we just can't support in a kind of Excel export way. So if you're looking for data that is not included in the Excel exports or the other data exports, I know the MARC export's very light in terms of data. That was something that was really kind of developed with Polaris and Marigold library system to enable some, stub record building there. Yeah, so for more extensive data like contributor bios, book descriptions, cover images, that type of thing, the data that powers CataList is from another internal BookNet system called BiblioShare. BiblioShare is the warehouse for all of the data, all the metadata, all those fun things. And they have a whole set of web services and other ways of getting data direct and in more depth than what CataList can support. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can put you in touch with the BiblioShare team for that. There is also one of those web services is a more complete MARC record that is available to pull down. So that may be something that's of interest to people in this room as well. The last question I will throw out there is about books in other languages. So when Vivian was showing the form for the advanced search, she did show the language drop down very briefly. There are some books that are, the vast majority is English. We're mostly working with English Canada, publishers in English Canada. And so the vast majority will be in English. There are some other language titles or dual language titles. They're mainly going to be French, Spanish. There's increasingly becoming available more books in North American Indigenous languages that is supported. Those searches are supported in the language box and also in the language refine tool after you've got your search results. In terms of French titles, French, like complete French Canadian data for the French market in Canada is managed by another organization, the BTLF in Quebec. We do have a partnership with BTLF that delivers access to their French data subscribers. It's a paid subscription to get access to BTLF's French data. But we do have a partnership with them that allows you to get their French data through the CataList site, basically. So if that's something that's of interest to you, we can put you in contact with the BTLF about subscription to their data as well. Are there links to awards or award nominations for titles in CataList? So there are. To a degree. It's something that we manually manage on the CataList side. So it's usually the major awards. There is, if you're on the homepage, in that publisher list, at the very top is one that is just awards. And so you can actually look at the awards. There's catalogs there for several years worth of awards. And usually what we do is we put those up as soon as the nominations go out. We will post a catalog. Vivian, do you want do you have the list of awards there handy that we
I
post?
I can show you the award list by going to the award winners here and
Oh yeah. So
showing you
Canada
here. So
Reads, CC.
Canada Reads, Canadian Children's Book Center, First Nations Community Reads, Forest of Reading, Governor General's, Indigenous Voices Awards, Scotia, Scotiabank Giller, Taste Canada, and the 2 Writers Trust Awards for fiction and nonfiction.
Could you just click on Forest of Reading for me, please? So when the nominations go out, we'll post all of the awards with the catalogs here. And then when the winner is announced, usually what we do is we can apply a feature display to the title, that we move it up to the front and give it a feature spot in that catalog. So you can see there's quite a few years of history there. We have not yet, though, enabled a search feature on the award data. So one of the limitations that we work under in the CataList side is that we are working with publisher data, which is getting much better, but we don't manually add things like prize data or age ranges or whatnot like that. What we show is what we get from the publishers. Now that publishers are selling from these catalogs using this data a lot more, we are seeing definitely improvements in the data, but it is not as complete as we would always like. So enabling things like search on prize data, we can only kind of do that when we have a critical mass of data to work with from the publishers. That's something that maybe we can look at how the support is in the publisher data to see if it is going to give you a good result. It's one of the things that we're kind of challenged by in some of the new data points that are being added, like thema for the Canadian regions and that type of thing. We're seeing more data, but your searches will return more information as that gets adopted further. It's a little bit of chicken and the egg. Publishers don't want to spend too much time putting money into developing support for data that's not being used, but people don't want to implement a use case like search features when the data is not there. So we kind of pick and choose, we've really kind of prioritized those geographical regions, contributor location stuff to try and get publishers to focus on sending that kind of over prize data. But we'll take a look and see what the data is looking like in prizes, because that might be an opportunity for us in future to put that into the search features. All right, and that's our time pretty well. And I think all our questions are cleared. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question or you wanted to follow up with us on anything, again, we're more than happy to hear from you guys. So thank you so much for spending some of your time with us today. I hope that we showed you something that would help you get a little more out of CataList or let you get started with it and have some fun and enable some of the things that you have to do. So we will be posting the recording of this session shortly, and we'll share the link out to all of you. And if you want to share this to any peers or colleagues that you think would benefit, we would love that too. Other than that, thank you again, and have a great afternoon, everyone.